Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla and let's go over the market. I want to make this video, or at least try to make this video short and sweet. But yeah, the market's closing in 30 minutes. Tesla's still trading, obviously, for another 30 minutes or so. So it looks like it'll be closing somewhere around this 145-ish level, we'll say, which is going to be a rough 2% increase on the day, which we did finally break that 7 in a row losing streak for Tesla. If today was a red day, by the way, it would have been a new record. And this would have been the first time in Tesla's history there would have been 8 consecutive red days essentially in a row. So we did break that, thankfully, or stop that bleed, I guess you can say. But obviously it all comes down to earnings. So as usual, by the way, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. The link is down below. If you're interested, for $2.99 a month, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, etc. on Tesla every single day. But jumping into it, so let's talk about what we can expect. Now, obviously with earnings, right, the expected move, by the way, for earnings is going to be a pretty decent move, actually, right? If you go over here, you can see the expected move is going to be somewhere around about a 9-ish% move. So we can go as low as 130 to as high as about 160, right? Ish. That's kind of what the options market roughly is pricing in right here, right now. So we'll see how that actually plays out. But I do want to make it very clear, right? First and foremost, again, I'm just gonna make this concise and clear. We are very oversold. The weekly is very oversold. The weekly RSI is extremely low, the 4th lowest it's ever been in Tesla's history. The stochastic is pretty much scraping the bottom of the barrel. The only time it scraped the bottom of the barrel this much for this long was back when we were trading around that 100 level where Elon was selling, the market was crashing, essentially, etc., etc. We're pretty much doing the exact same thing we did here, but over here you can see how identical it looks, and look what happened not too long after, including, of course, that RSI being as low as it is. We are, of course, on my band's regression, pretty damn oversold on the weekly even as well, but especially on the daily, even after today's little 2% move up, we're still at pretty astronomically oversold territory, which of course happens to also coincide with the pretty nice bounce spot so far. We'll go back to the weekly on this green line down over here, which has served as a pretty powerful bounce each and every single time so far, which is a good thing to see. And so far, again, there's still time in the week, but so far we're bouncing exactly, like almost to the perfection level that we need to. It's just a matter of, can we actually close the week above this or not? To make it simple, the way I look at it is this: if we close the week, the week, not the day, the week, below 138 to 140, so essentially the low of yesterday, and we close the week below that, then the lows coming down to these fair value gaps over here in the 120s to as low as even potentially coming down to the 100 level to maybe get a double bottom potentially becomes very realistic. Like that unlocks that potential. I believe as long as we are above though this 138 140 level, it's not going to happen. But if we do go close the weekly below that level, it can still be a false breakdown. It can still be a bear trap, but it definitely increases the probability of 120 to 100 even, quite dramatically in my opinion. So it is something to really consider, that it really becomes a possibility, right? So that's kind of how I see that kind of situation forming there. But all in all, it really comes down to earnings, right? It really just comes down to earnings, right? So that's the bottom expected like direction, or things to watch out for, in the sense of going downwards. But in the sense of going upwards, right, like I said, I think if earnings go well, right, okay, before I get that, I'll finish this thought. If things go well, essentially, I expect Tesla, I really wouldn't be surprised if we come up to about the top range of this expected move, which will be pretty much a 160, right? Which is going to be this level that we, found some pretty substantial support at, but, we haven't really retested it yet. We just pretty much bled through it pretty substantially. And I really wouldn't be surprised if we come up to pretty much 160, assuming earnings and the earnings call goes well, which would coincide pretty darn well with this level right here, which would be like a reversion to the mean. And that makes sense on the daily chart, right, with this band's regression, which pretty much lines up pretty darn well, which is roughly with that 20-day moving averages, which is in the very low 160s. So pretty much our test somewhere around 160-ish. Wouldn't surprise me, assuming earnings goes well. And it's just going to be a matter of, can we break above and hold 160 or not? Like I said, and I think yesterday's video or the day before that, that is the most crucial level, right? We want to first start setting up a pretty nice looking bounce spot around this 140 level. So far, we're doing that. Obviously, earnings can change that, but so far, so good. So step number 1, you can argue, is accomplished. But step number 2 and step number 3 are harder and harder, right? Step number 2, breaking back above 160 and now turning it back once again into a support, right? From what could be, in theory, if we come up to 160 after earnings, as a resistance, right? It gets important to understand. But if we can get back above 160 and turn it back into a support, that will be very very bullish, and it would give me like a 70% chance that the bottom is in. 90% chance that the bottom is in is making a fresh higher high, so essentially breaking above about this 183-ish level, right? If we break that structure and set a fresh higher high, that would give me about an like 90-ish% chance that the bottom is in. But in order for me to really get like super confident that the bottom is truly in, like 99.999%, like nothing's 100%. Obviously, there's always a risk of everything. Like nothing's ever 100%. But the one thing that would make me very convinced that the bottom could be officially in is essentially breaking out. Well, actually, we'll look at it on the weekly. Is breaking out of this overall trend, right? This red line at the very top and this green line at the very bottom is essentially that massive range that we're just kind of trading in, right? And it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So if we bounce off of here, I wouldn't be surprised if at the very least we go up to about the halfway point, which would take us to about 180, which if I bring back this indicator here, you can see that's where that 20 moving average is on the weekly chart, which is slowly declining. So there's a chance that it can meet us around the 180 range, right? That is a possibility. And that would be like a true reversion to the mean on the weekly as well, which would be kind of like a way to reset the stock from this really bearish momentum that we're in right now and kind of go back to neutral. Not really bearish, but not really bullish. It's kind of just like in, well, let's see what happens sort of land, right? That's kind of what I can foresee happening. And this is where things will especially get interesting, somewhere around that midway point in the middle between both of these massive trend lines that really should dictate where we move next. And that's the way I determine as to what would happen next, essentially, right? If we break above the red line at the top, which, on the weekly time frame, if it happens sometime in like a couple months or so, would be pretty much a break of about 230, we'll say. But to the downside, if it happens, it'll be pretty much really below 140 for now, slash 145, depends on when it actually happens, because one's descending and one's ascending. So that's going to be the main thing that'll determine whether or not the bottom is in. Can we break above this red line above it? That bottom is probably in. If we break below the green line, well, we probably have, a decent amount of more pain ahead. And honestly, even breaking down to the 69 price target, which seems like a meme, well, it might actually unironically not be a meme, considering that we did pretty much get all the way up to the high over here was about 414, right? All-time highs, I think, is 414 for Tesla, right? Which is pretty close to 420. So yeah, we'll see. 420 is the high and 69 is the low. That will be quite a meme, but sometimes it's just kind of what it is in this day and age, honestly, as weird as it sounds. But that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at. Options flow is all over the place. Bearish flow on Tesla is pretty darn high. Bullish flow doesn't really exist here in terms of confirmed bullish flow, so keep that in mind. A lot of calls came in here in the last hour or so. You can see a lot of calls, but a lot of them are kind of leap-y, right? Some of them are for 2026, some of them for 2025 January, so about a year out. So some of them are more than that, of course, but all in all, pretty mixed flow. I definitely saw a lot of bearish flow in the morning to like early-ish noon, I would say, but it did change. It did slow down, and now I'm seeing a very healthy mix, but ultimately it seems like no one knows where the hell this thing is going to go. So it really just comes down to how guidance goes, and I want to make it very clear. Everyone is expecting earnings to be bad. A lot of people are calling for Tesla to go to 100, which, I can understand why. It's, the sentiment is extremely bearish, but keep in mind, there's a reason we're down like, 45 or something like that % year to date, and in the last, even including today's rally, in the last like week of literal trading, not week of like, IRL time in terms of including the weekend, but week of like trading days of weeks, right? 7 days of trading days. That streak that we had of, 7 days in a row of being down, and today would have been 8. We lost about 15% in just like a week of trading, essentially, which is a lot. Like that's a substantial amount. Like there's a reason the Tesla's down this much year to date and even the last week of trading. It's not just because, for the memes, it's down like that because earnings is expected to be bad. Deliveries were bad, right? Earnings are not expected to be good. Like, and a lot of people are talking about how earnings are going to be horrible. I expect it to drop even further. Yeah, it's going to be bad. It's probably not going to be very good, but believe me, that's most likely something everyone's aware. No one's coming into this expecting some crazy beat. And if we do somehow magically beat, well, this thing will short squeeze to the moon. But I don't think anyone expects that. But everyone does expect the earnings to be bad. Really, what comes down to is, in my opinion, the forward guidance. If Elon can come in, sound confident, and just sound like he's really just back in the game, really just, he's here to make it happen. He'll give confidence to, investors, Wall Street, etc. for the next several quarters, even like a year, maybe even 2 years out or something like that, right? More information about the Model 2, more information about robotaxis, more information about how robotaxis can become a revenue stream for Tesla, more information about, margins finally improving, things like that. If we get that information that sounds solid and sounds, promising, this will, in my opinion, short squeeze the stock, and it would be bullish. But it's just a big if. Do we get that or do we not get that is the main question. So with all that being said and done, that's it for the video. Wanted to make this kind of, relatively quick, but ended up still being 10 minutes. But that's a lot of information, hopefully condensed into one piece. And that's kind of what I'm expecting moving forward. I did slightly de-risk one of my cash secured puts just in case, because I want to have a bit more dry powder in case things don't go as well as I'm hoping that they will. But, you know, we'll see. I am more positive than negative here, but I do have dry powder ready if things are just really not going as well as I would hope that they would. Let's just say that. But yeah, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow, by the time I record this video, we will pretty much know our fate. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.